Bonjour Pengies, and welcome to Pat Cast, the show that dives you into the world as I see it. I'm Patrick, your host, and today we're sham-rocking our way through the streets of Paris as we dive into the Irish Cultural Centre, the Irish community, and the St. Patrick's Day celebrations in the City of Lights. From baguette-baking leprechauns to Guinness-infused croissants, hold on to your berets, grab a pint, and let's sham-rock and roll. Stay tuned. Bonjour, and today is a special day because I am not recording from Paris La Défense, as I usually do, but live from the Irish Cultural Centre in the 5th district of Paris. Beautiful building, by the way, amazing location. I'd like to thank the Cultural Centre, especially Anne-Sophie and Rosetta, for accepting to record this episode from here, and also to visit the Mediathèque and the Expo, of which you can find pictures and videos on the podcast Instagram page called @PatPangsMedia. It's finally a pleasure to visit this center and get more insights about the Irish community in Paris. I would like to introduce my distinguished guest today, Rosetta Beaugendre, Head of Communications in the Centre Culturel Irlandais, and Paul Lynch, very active member in the Parisian Irish community and longtime resident in Paris. He must really love Paris because it's been a while that he's living in the city. Both of my guests are Irish, and I'm super glad to have had recorded that episode with them. Our episode is divided into 3 segments. Paul and Rosetta will present in the first segment the Irish Cultural Centre, since it first opened until now. In the second segment, I will be discussing with Paul about the Irish community and, last but not least, St. Patrick's Day in general and in Paris will be brought to you by Paul and I in the third segment. Let's start with the first segment, and I'll give the mic to Rosetta and Paul.
Thank you, Patrick. So yes, I've actually been here in the Centre Culturel Irlandais for 21 years, but I know that the person beside me here has been in Paris even longer. How long have you been here?
30 years, yeah.
Brilliant. Yes, so I'm a new girl on the block. But I turned up here the year before and was very lucky to knock on the door of the embassy when they said in 2002 we're opening Ireland's first cultural centre abroad in October, and gave me a job, and together with the director and the project manager basically coordinating the inauguration, because you would know even more, Paul, than me, that it had been something completely different.
Yeah, I recall. Well, I came here in 94. This was the Irish College, as they call it. And it's a very historical place, but it was fairly run down at the time. But it was still very much a focal point for the community at the time. More based around the chapel, the St. Patrick's Chapel, as it's called. And as far as I remember at the time, there were still some nuns living here from... it was originally a seminary.
Polish, weren't they?
They were Polish nuns, yeah. And even Pope John Paul II studied here at some stage in his early days. So at some stage, the Irish government and the French government got together, and I think the costs for doing the renovations, I might be wrong, but it was around 8 million punts at the time, equivalent.
Yeah.
And it was 50% French government, 50% Irish government. It's not a lot of money nowadays, but back in those days, it's almost 30 years ago. It was a lot of money.
Yeah, and we were lucky that Ireland was kind of Celtic Tiger because it's true that I turned up and it was still being done up, and there was, scaffolding everywhere. Yeah. And it was an exciting moment because it was about to take on, a new persona, perhaps, but very much keeping all the history, because you're right, the Polish community were there, I think from 1945, just after the Second World War, 6 priests who asked if they could come and stay in what was this old Irish seminary, because they'd nowhere else to go, and stayed actually 50 odd years, 55.
Yeah. But the place was, it was in a bit of a mess, really. A lot of the buildings you see now were totally, not derelict, but as good as. So it took, I think, 3 to 4 years for to do the works.
Yeah.
And then when it reopened in 2002.
Yeah.
And the first director was
Helen Carey. Yes.
That's right, yeah. Then Sheila Pratzka was next.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you would have seen changes from, say, Helen Carey's time up to now.
Yeah.
As in what happens.
Exactly.
Because if I remember, in the early days, it was a lot of more, say, art exhibitions rather than music and stuff like that. And I mean, you've been through the whole thing. I think you've seen the...
Well, what was interesting perhaps at the beginning is it was quite a challenge to develop it from being quite intimate space that was closed actually to the public into an art centre that was open every afternoon with a multimedia library, as you say, exhibitions and events pretty much every evening. And all eyes were on us in Ireland. Now, the French and in Paris, they didn't care initially, and why would they? But we had to also insert ourselves into the Parisian kind of cultural landscape. And as head of communications, that was my job. So I remember one of the first things I did was, the brown signposts around Paris for cultural institutions and things like that.
Yes.
And so one of the first jobs I had was to go and say, please, can we have some, from each different metro station or whatever.
You do see them,
yeah, and literally putting us on the map and then just building up. We're very lucky that the French and the Parisians love Ireland. That's kind of, there's a great base to work on.
Sure. I think one of the things as well, as you mentioned, communication was very important because, I've been to many events here and I'm often curious when you would have somebody here, say Fintan O'Toole, who'd be a famous Irish journalist and a very interesting guy, but the place would be packed. And you would know that 50% of the people didn't really know what's going on. But it's just the curiosity. And that's important that they come just to be there, not necessarily to understand exactly what the debate is or the discussion, because it's always, well, for him, it's in English, obviously. But that's right. That's what I find very amazing, that the French people, they do come here because they are curious. And as I say, not just about music, because the music is also something that's
universal.
It's universal, and a lot of, even if they don't know this music or the singers, they know it's going to be good, because...
But we're lucky because we are the only art centre on the European continent. We can invite the creme de la creme.
Yes.
And the best. Now, musicians, there's no point asking us to get you to. And actually...
they're a bit expensive.
Yeah, that was exactly the question I wanted to ask you. So you have pretty much Parisian people coming from different backgrounds, not just one background or one single social level or educational level. It's very diversified. Right?
Absolutely. I mean, and in fact, Parisians of all nationalities, anyone that can come from wherever in France or even abroad. Ireland itself has widened its reach and widened its opinions, as we know, and there's quite a lot of immigration into Ireland, and so Ireland has grown up, if one can say, quite a lot, even in the 20 years that the Centre Culturel Irlandais has been open, and we've always been a 32 county cultural centre, all Ireland, because culture doesn't have any borders. So, and you were saying accessibility, many of our events are free or only a small price, like €5 or 20 max for a really well-known musician, because it's this idea of sharing, which I think, genuinely speaking, Ireland is well known for. And our mission is very much about sharing the Irish creativity with Paris.
Perfect. So do you enjoy your stay in Paris so far? Is it something that you plan on still doing, or at some point?
I think it's gone beyond a stay at this stage. What do you think, Paul?
3 children later.
Yeah, I have 3 children, a French husband,
a house in the country,
a house and a dog, and all all those tick boxes.
The dog is the issue, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't leave
the dog.
But that said, because we are the only cultural centre in Europe, we do develop with other countries, and I'm actually leading a project with Germany because Ireland is doing this Zeitgeist Irland 24, and so the centre itself is also part of FICEP, which is because Paris is the place that has 60 cultural institutes from all over the world. I think it's the highest number in the whole world, and so there's this forum that we all belong to. So the access professionally, but also kind of informally, to 60 different countries, and comparing notes and supporting each other if needs be, and organising 2 events per year. One was the jazz festival, and the other is a week around a particular theme every September, October. So yes, Paris is very important to me, and France, but I also like to keep my eyes on the wider field.
Well, thank you very much for your presence with us, and thank you for welcoming us in the center as well. It's a pleasure. Welcome. And I'd look forward to coming back here and also participate in the activities that you do. Obviously.
Absolutely. Fête de la Musique, 21st of June's big one. Paddy's Day, 17th of March. Beckett Festival in June. Yeah, now, I mean, we always have lots and lots going on and exhibitions all the time. And so please do come back.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Paul.
Yeah, that was very interesting with Rosetta. Thank you very much for the conversation that you had with her. And I have to mention your T-shirt. I will put some video of it. Mm-hmm. What does it say?
Okay, so this is La Élephoric, which is St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
And then Sláinte is, well, that's a pint of beer.
Yeah.
I won't say it's the famous one, but it's a pint of stout.
Okay.
Which is generic, obviously. And then Sláinte is like Santé.
Okay. Santé?
Santé.
Okay.
Cheers.
Yeah,
Sláinte. Actually, Sláinte in the word actually means health.
Yeah, okay.
So it's like santé, to your health.
Just like in French.
So if you're in a bar in Ireland and you want to do santé, you just say sláinte.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, but don't do it too much, because Irish people don't like too much clinging glasses. It interferes with drinking time.
Okay. Okay, so in this episode, what we'd like to talk about are mainly 2 different topics. The first topic that we just talked about is the Irish Cultural Centre, so that was very interesting. Yeah. The second and the third, mainly 3 topics. The second is the Irish in Paris. How many are they? Where do they live, etc.? So this will be the second part of this episode. Mm-hmm. And the third part, we're going to be obviously going all Irish, St. Patrick's Day Irish, because I'm Patrick and I'm embracing my name.
Yeah, fair enough.
Fair enough. So if you can give us some information about the Irish community in Paris. Where do they live? How many are they? When did they come to Paris and why?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's very hard to gauge how many Irish people live in Paris. Well, when we say Paris, we also include the Ile-de-France.
Okay, yeah, sure.
And I think a rough idea, the embassy has some formula, but I think it's around 3,000 living in, say, Ile-de-France, including Paris, obviously. Now, that includes, say, an Irish woman married to a Frenchman with 2 or 3 children. So they're included, like Rosetta. They're included in that figure. So they live, when they come to France as young people, they normally stay in Paris because this is where the fun is. Then they meet the man, get married, and then they start having the kids, then they move out to the Ile-de-France. I mean, it's totally an economic...
Actually, it's mainly just like Parisians and French.
Yeah, it's the same logic, you know?
Same logic.
So, so they kind of move, and even just as Rosetta said, like each time she had another child, she moved further away from Paris because of... costs and so on. They come here like normally from university. Depending on why they come here is another thing. Like there's 3 types of Irish person who comes to Paris. The first ones are the ones who, like myself, I came here for a job specifically. That's one category. Then there's a category who meet the man or the woman, the French man or French woman in Ireland or in France or in Spain or Australia, and they come to live to France, you know, to normally settle down and get married and have children. And then the third category would be the ones who, you know, have a love of French culture, the French language, and people come here to immerse into that, and not necessarily any other reason, you know, and then eventually they might end up marrying somebody here or maybe not, but that's the 3 categories more or less. It's like France, well, Paris is this mythical place that, you know, from when we were kids, you hear about it. You know, I mean, probably the first foreign language any kid in Ireland, foreign words, I should say, is how to count 1 to 10 in French, you know.
French.
So there is always this thing about Paris, you know, and it has such a reputation in the world because of the culture of Paris, you know, the Eiffel Tower, everything, the museums, all that type of thing. So it is an attraction. The only thing that most Irish people, young people, when they leave Ireland to go somewhere in Europe, they'll come to France only if they have some part of the language, if they want to learn the language or they have the language, because it's difficult to come here. I found it when I came here, I didn't really have very much French. I just had French from school, but that had been a long time before. And but I came here because I came for a job. But if any young Irish person leaving Ireland, say 20 years of age after doing university, 21, 22, whatever, if they don't have a language as part of their university degree, for example, they'll go to places like Scandinavia, where English
is more common.
Holland.
Germany, probably.
Germany to a certain extent, but certainly not France. Spain, probably not. Portugal, you know, Italy, Italy not.
Not at all.
Greece, maybe. But generally, it'll be places where there's not going to be, because when you move to a new country, you know, moving is tough enough. But then if you don't know the culture, you don't know the language, then it's always going to be a difficulty.
Especially French people are very particular with the French language, right?
Yeah. And well, Parisians, like that's one thing. Parisians, when I came here first, you know, I had very little French, to be honest, but I just started reading signs on the street saying, sortie, that means exit. And, you know, it was coming back, it was in my head somewhere. But after a while then, you know, if I went to the local bakery, they'd kind of throw the stuff at me because they knew I wasn't French.
Yeah.
And of course, they know then, when they know you're not French and they know they're kind of, oh, is he English? Is he American? Is he this? Is he that? Is he the other? But then after you start making an effort, they respect that. But also then, when they realise you're Irish, then everything changes, you know, because the French do have a love of the Irish, you know.
For some reason. Do you know how to explain that? Why do they like the Irish community?
I think because we have a mutual enemy.
I think I know what you're talking about. And
I think you probably have to cut that out. But no, I think there's a few things actually. One in particular, I know we are talking about Paris, but like, you know, the Bretons have a very close ties to the Celtic nations, you know, and they certainly, I mean, if you go to Brittany and into a bar or into, you know, they're going to be playing Irish traditional music better than Irish people.
Really?
And I remember when I came to Paris first, there used to be an Irish bar called Connolly's Corner, not too far from here. And they used to have these traditional music sessions every Sunday afternoon, and I think it was Thursday evenings. And the first time I was in there were these traditional musicians playing Irish traditional music. And when it was finished, I went over to chat to them and said, "Oh, where are you from, you know, in Ireland?" And none of them, there was 10 people, and they were all Breton.
Oh, wow. From the west of France.
From
from Brittany.
From Brittany, yeah. And I just... I was amazed, and it was only then I realised, as time went on, that it's a huge thing in France. Irish traditional music.
Yeah.
Huge.
A lot of the singers coming from Bretagne or Brittany, when they're inspired from the local music, the sound of the music is very similar or
totally,
close.
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's people who play, you know, they play the fiddle, for example.
Instruments, right?
The whistles. There's a drum we have called the baron. It's like a hand drum. And and amazing the standard and quality, and as I say, you wouldn't, if you went into one of the top Irish pubs, the most expensive Irish pubs in Dublin, you'd find that the musician quality there was a lot less than it is.
Oh wow!
Here,
Oh, that's
unless they're French. They could be French playing in Dublin, and that's probably, if you ever see good trad musicians in Dublin, the chance are they're from Brittany.
Good to know.
And as I say, a lot of them live in Paris, so that's why there are a lot of Irish music sessions in Paris, in different bars. And as I say, the majority of these musicians are from the west of France.
We had a guest from Brittany, Florian, in the previous episode. I'm now very upset that he didn't sing any Brittany song.
Next time,
Florian.
Yeah.
Okay, so what makes you stay in Paris? What is the advantages? What are the advantages? What do you like about the city and the Parisians? And what do you not like? Here, be careful, because I have a lot of Parisians listening.
Yeah.
No, go ahead and be fully transparent.
I don't like Les Grèves.
Oh yeah, the strikes.
The strikes are always a pain in the behind, because Unfortunately, where I live in Paris, I live in a lovely area in the 11th, near right halfway between Bastille and Nation. Unfortunately, these two places are where the greves start or finish, and that's when the problems happen for me.
And it happens.
That's when I have to ring and take a day off work.
Well, I hope so.
I don't have any choice.
You just can't go out of your home.
No, I just can't leave. They're kind of shifting things around. Like they're even going to say Place d'Italie.
Oh,
You know, they're just moving the marches from different places. I would assume it's the Prefecture de Paris who makes the decision. Okay, we can't stop you to marching. That's it's your right, but. You know, give the people in the 11th a break. Go down to the 13th, or go to the 12th, or just you or maybe go on up to the 16th and see how they like it.
I don't think they will.
No, I don't think so. You can't be upsetting the people up there.
You cannot upset the people there.
No. Like historically, the Bastille was.
But it's also a place where the revolution, very revolutionary.
And I don't think it's coincidental. You know that the marches happened to start or Republique. You know, it all makes sense. Republique, Bastille, Nation.
Right. Yeah, there are places like squares, very national squares.
It's historic. Yeah,
it's historical squares.
Of course.
But there's also a place that is located in a bougie area where some demonstrators go sometimes. It's like a Trocadero, which is facing the Eiffel Tower. Yeah. Sometimes you still have some people, gathering there. Yeah. Because there is the Eiffel Tower in the background. So on TV, it looks good. It's like
looks good for. No, it's like in the last couple of years, there's been problems in the banlieue.
Yeah.
And
the suburbs,
in the suburbs, and people call me, is everything okay? I saw all the cars being burned, and I just say to them, well, it's like there's a problem in Galway in Ireland, and people think it's in Dublin. It's just it's so far apart
exactly
that. But of course, the TV say, there's problems in Ireland, and everybody then assumes it's Dublin or Belfast in the past and stuff like that, So when people see something on the TV, a car on fire or a bus on fire in Paris,
Paris is burning down.
Yeah, Paris is burning down, So that's the perception. Huh?
Okay, cool. So you still like Parisians and living in Paris despite the strikes, or is it? What is your overall feeling?
Well, there's lots of, Paris, it's a living museum, really, and if you like museums, which I do, and I love walking around Paris in the spring and the summer, when you can, when it's not raining. The restaurant culture is really very special. Yeah. To compare to other places in the world. And as I said, what I like about where I live, as I mentioned, it's in between Bastille and Nation. And Bastille would be touristic if you like. Yeah. Nation not so much, but where I live, it's like a little village, and there's nothing touristy about it. Yeah. So that's why I like that you can actually get away from Paris is a big tourist attraction. Right. So it's nice to be able to, if I want to go to I don't know when I was last at the Champs-Élysées, for example, when you come here first, you do all this, you go to Champs-Élysées and you have a coffee, and then you pay the mortgage after borrowing the money to buy the coffee, and you just kind of get used to these places. They're there, and it's nice that if you want to go see them, you can. Yeah, sure. And that's what I like about Paris. Yeah. Another thing which I find really good about Paris, certainly compared to Dublin, is the metro. It's so easy to get from A to B. Right. So there's little things like that I find is an attraction, and it's something that you just settle into.
Right. Okay, well then, that was a brief introduction of the Irish community in Paris. Now, we cannot talk about Ireland, and we cannot talk about Irish people without talking about St. Patrick's Day, or how you call it, St. Paddy, right?
Yeah, St. Paddy's Day. That's very informal. And unfortunately, in America, somehow they've adopted this St. Patty's Day, P-A-T-T-Y-S, which makes no sense. And if there's any Americans listening, please understand it's not St. Patty's Day. Patty is something that you put on a piece of bread.
Exactly. It's like the ham,
Paddy.
Right?
Paddy is a name. It's a shortened name for Patrick. So there are people, I have an uncle, Paddy, and I have lots of friends called Paddy. And that's where it comes from, but I don't know where Patty comes from.
I don't know, Americans.
Patty is actually, Patty in Ireland, somebody called Patty is a shortened version of Patricia.
Oh.
So you would call a woman, not every Patricia is called Patty, but if you meet a woman and she says her name is Patty, it's Patricia. Yeah. So but it's not Patty. Yeah, St. Paddy's Day.
That's Patty. So double D, double D-Y.
Double D-Y.
Paddy.
That's informal. In the real, obviously,
Patrick.
St. Patrick's Day.
St. Patrick's Day.
So who was St. Patrick? Well, he was born in Wales, the west of Great Britain.
Common enemy.
Yeah. Oh no, Wales is all right.
Oh, the Wales are
They're okay. Scotland's okay. So he was born in Wales. We're not sure. He died around between 365 and 461. So, and as a result, we're not sure when he was actually born, if you like.
In the 4th century. Or
he was born
around
the 4th century. Yeah. Sometime the 4th century. Yeah. He was kidnapped in Wales and brought to Ireland, and he ended up as a slave in Ireland. And he somehow escaped, and he came to France. And when he went to Ireland, Ireland was pagan. So then he went to France to somehow ended up, and I don't know the real story, but he ended up being a priest and eventually a bishop. And he decided he'd come back to Ireland to bring Christianity to Ireland.
Okay.
So that's the first link.
Okay. And what was the religion before Christianity?
It was pagan.
Pagan.
It was all pagan, yeah. So they believed in the sun and the moon and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And one of the things, like a lot of people would know that the link, Ireland has our national flower, if you like, the emblem is a shamrock. So it's a 3-leaf plant, if you like.
Yep.
So what he used the shamrock to explain Christianity to the pagans, that the shamrock was one plant with 3 leaves. And the leaves stood for the Father, the Son and the Holy Spirit.
Yep.
So it was 3 in 1.
Okay.
That's how he simplified it. So St. Patrick's Day is the 17th of March every year. And there's 2 countries in the world who celebrate it as their national holiday. One is Ireland, and the other is a little island in the Caribbean called Montserrat.
Oh, wow. Why?
Okay, good question. So Montserrat is it's an ex-British island. It's independent now. But back in the time of Cromwell, because Cromwell was the Lord Protector of Ireland, and he didn't really like Irish people. So what he did is he used to, anybody who was found guilty of a crime in Ireland were normally shipped off to somewhere. So as you know, we've heard of Van Diemen's Land in Australia, which a lot of convicts were sent to Australia as far away as possible. And a boatload of Irish were sent to Montserrat. So Montserrat was a little island in the Caribbean where you had the landed gentry, who were the people on top, and then the people down the very bottom were the slaves from Africa. So when the Irish convicts were thrown into Montserrat, naturally enough, you know, when they start integrating, they integrated with the slaves because they were never going to be allowed to integrate with the glitterati.
Exactly.
Okay?
Yeah.
So as a result, centuries move on. So that was in the 1600s. So centuries move on. And a lot of people in Montserrat nowadays have Irish family names like Lynch, O'Brien, Byrne, Murphy.
Okay.
And of course, they're African.
Oh.
They're African people, you know, more so than, they're certainly not white people. So it became known as the Emerald Isle of the Caribbean. And they celebrate St. Patrick's Day as their national day.
Like it's a day off. It's
their bank holiday. It's like Bastille Day.
Okay.
Same thing, yeah.
But it's also celebrated, obviously, even if it's not a national holiday, but it's extremely celebrated in the US as well. From what I think, it's like New York and Chicago mainly, right?
No, in fact, the biggest parade, like there is a debate, which is the biggest parade in the USA, and Savannah, Georgia is actually a very big St. Patrick's Day parade. Okay. New York is very big. I've been to the New York parade. Chicago, they colour the river green.
Oh, I saw it.
They dye the river green for St. Patrick's Day.
That's impressive.
Boston, of course, has a parade. But so the first parade supposedly the first parade in USA was in 1601.
Oh, that goes back.
In a town called St. Augustine, in Florida.
Okay.
In
Florida, because there were a lot of people from Irish descent.
Obviously, there was something like Savannah, Georgia. Savannah is just south of New York.
Yeah.
And what happened was that when a lot of Irish people came to New York during the famine, 1847, up to 1850, when they arrived in New York, there were already a lot of Irish in New York. So these people coming in, basically they weren't really made too welcome. So that's why they moved south and they ended up in Savannah in Georgia. There's a lot of Irish, when I say Irish, of course, I mean Irish ancestors.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Irish in St. Louis, because that's where they went.
Okay.
And St. Augustine in Florida, 1601, no idea. But there's obviously some reason.
There must be a reason back then.
But at the moment, the two big ones, the real big ones are Savannah, Georgia, and New York.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is for some reason in the US, mainly because I guess there are a lot of Irish descent population there. If we go outside of the US, if we want to know where it's celebrated except in the US, it happened that for some reason I was looking on the internet a few months ago and it showed Buenos Aires in Argentina. So I was like, wow, Buenos Aires, it's a Latino country.
Yeah, you see, there is a huge link between Argentina and Ireland, you know.
Oh, there is.
Yeah, and again, a lot of links with, say, South American countries in particular, and African countries is because of the missions.
Right.
So a lot of priests and nuns would have went to these places.
Okay.
Now, for example, there's the Irish Gaelic games, of Gaelic football, hurling, and then there's a female version of hurling called camogie. Those games are, were introduced into these countries, and there was a huge, I think it's a hurling team or a Gaelic football team in Buenos Aires called Sarsfields.
Okay.
And they've been there for years. So there is an Irish connection in Argentina. And it's like if you go down through Argentina down to Patagonia, there's a huge Welsh community there.
Oh, wow. All the way down to Patagonia.
Yeah, because, see, there's different reasons as to why people, like as I said, in the Irish case, lots of missions went to these countries.
Yeah.
Then if you want to go to places like Australia, obviously,
Sydney,
there's
right.
Sydney, there's a big parade.
Yeah.
There's a parade in Brisbane, there's a parade in Melbourne. Canada, you have Toronto.
Because of the proximity with the US, or also because there are...
I mean, what I spoke about earlier on about the convicts who went to Australia, there's lots of people in Australia, because Australia is a very young country.
Yeah, right.
And there's lots of people there who would claim Irish, even their family names are Irish.
Yeah.
But there's Irish everywhere, basically. And even nowadays, you have, Gaelic football has become such a global sport. I mean, it's played in almost every country in the world now. And it's all down to the fact that Irish people, they move and they introduce these games. I mean, I remember being in the Philippines in 1998, and there was a Gaelic football tournament for Asia and Australia. And you had teams from Vietnam, Japan, Taiwan, Philippines, Hong Kong, Japan. Yeah. And this has gone bigger and bigger and bigger.
Okay.
Even in the Middle East, there's a big tournament in, I think it's in Dubai every year.
Okay.
So, that's the Irish, and that's the connection with Argentina.
Yeah.
That's been there for centuries.
Amazing.
And even Che Guevara was Che Guevara Lynch. So his ancestors came from Ireland.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. His grandfather, I think, was Irish, or great-grandfather.
You're everywhere.
We're everywhere.
You remind me of Lebanese people as well, like Lebanon.
Yeah.
It's a small country. There are very few Lebanese in Lebanon. However, they are pretty much everywhere, and their culture is everywhere, in restaurants everywhere. So same with
That's
the Irish.
That's the Irish, yeah.
So if we go back to Paris, how's St. Patrick's Day or St. Paddy's Day celebrated in the city here, and how do you celebrate it personally?
Yeah, since I came here in 94, so the way it was celebrated, or the way it is celebrated, is that people go to Irish pubs in Paris, to name a few, McBride's, Corcoran's, O'Sullivan's. It's a nice little bar, semi-Irish, Kiwi-Irish in the Bastille called the Black Sheep.
Okay. So
people just meet up there, and normally depends, meet for lunch and then just drink drinks.
Drink drinks.
As you do. What the funny part is, the amount of French people who come to Irish pubs on Paddy's Day, and they really get involved, and they join the fun.
Yeah.
And the thing about Paddy's Day for us is that, it's not like France, where if your Bastille Day falls on a Saturday, it's just a Saturday.
Right.
If it's on a Sunday, it's just a Sunday.
It's just a Sunday.
But for us, St. Patrick's Day, no matter what day of the week it is,
you're going to have to take a day off at some point.
Oh, yeah, no matter what. And even, again, if it's a bank holiday, it is a bank holiday. But if it falls on a Saturday, the bank holiday is the Monday.
Yeah.
So it's a long weekend.
Right.
And so in Paris, as I said, originally what we do is we would meet up, meet friends. You go to any Irish pub on the 17th of March and you won't get in. Right. I mean, literally, and depending where it is. And to be fair, the police have always been really good. They get it, even if it's a pub on a boulevard, they'll come along and they'll make sure that everybody stays off the road, which is further on. But they won't come along and try close the place.
Yeah.
They're very tolerant, which is great. So then what happened was I had been doing some community stuff in Paris, organising a big charity ball for 15 years from 2001. And the whole idea of the event was to get the Irish community together in Paris, which it did. You know, we had between 250, 300 people every year.
Wow.
But then it ran its course, and then there was a need for a community. So a few of us got together and set up the Irish in France Association.
Mm-hmm.
And because we are now an official association, we could apply for a permit to have a St. Patrick's Day parade.
Okay.
So we did that, and we got the permit. So on the 17th of March, I might be wrong about the exact date, but it was March of 2018.
Okay.
We had our first official St. Patrick's Day parade in Paris.
Oh, wow.
And we started here in the Irish Cultural Centre.
In the 5th district in Paris.
Yeah. And we had a real Irish day. When it rained, it snowed, we had sun, we had everything.
Everything.
And we had 550 people.
Oh, wow.
For the first parade. So then it went fine. And we marched from here down around the Pantheon.
Yep.
And back. Yep. So it was very small, just
which is good.
Little walkabout.
Sure.
So then we said, okay, the next year, 2019, we'll get bigger because
Right.
the word went out that it was a great day. So 2019, we extended the route a bit. Instead, we came through around the Pantheon, then down around Rue Mouffetard and back up.
Uh-huh.
And that time we had 2,600.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So
that's like
the second time. So that was kind of, here we go. It's going to kick off, you see.
Yeah.
So then 2020, we organised the parade. The parade was due to happen in March 2020, and we organised it to coincide with France-Ireland rugby game in Paris.
Yep.
So you imagine 2019, 2,600, add on maybe another 1,000, and maybe another 1,000 for the people coming for the rugby. So we were all set again. Everything was ready to go. We had a bigger route. And
so you were expecting like 5,000?
About 5,000, yeah. And then the dreaded appeared. So COVID appeared, and literally, I think we were due to have the parade on the 14th of March. That was the Saturday, 2020. And the government closed down any manifestations or parades on the Wednesday before.
Oh, no.
So that was the end of 2020. And of course, then what happened with 21, 22 and so on. And so
it hasn't gone back.
No, I tell you what the problem was. We had built up, a link with a lot of, because you have to build links with the prefecture and get to know people.
Sure.
Because they need to trust you. They need to trust you and make sure it's working properly and stuff like that. So what happened was that after COVID, we kind of started looking at getting the parade started again. So far, it hasn't happened because we also need to look at more logistics as to the size of it and, where people can hang out afterwards and so on and so forth.
Sure.
So it's part of the, I'm not the president of the association since last December, so there's a new president and a new board there. So they're looking at... Pádraig, yeah. Pádraig Maguire, yeah. And they're looking at this parade happening again. Mm-hmm. And it's really where we have to get together with, obviously, the cultural centre, with the embassy and places and different actors in the whole event, and sit around the table. And because when we had the parade, especially in 2019, people came from all over France. We had in France there's 24, 25 GAA Gaelic clubs.
Wow. Right.
And they all sent a representative to wear their jersey, their shirt.
Yep.
So it was very colourful. And in fact, on the website of irishinfrance.org, there's videos of both the two parades. So it was a very colourful thing. So funny, French people joining in along the street and stuff like that. And it was what Ireland's all about. And it's something I think that really, I've been to parades, St. Patrick's Day parades in different countries. And it's just something that really is representative of what Ireland is about.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I would definitely go and check it out. You can also go check it out, irishinfrance.org. This is the organization you were the president of until last year.
Yes.
Okay, we'll check it out, and hopefully it will kick off again.
Yeah, I hope so, yeah.
I will definitely be participating.
For sure.
In the first row.
Yeah. You'll be welcome. You're more than welcome.
Perfect. And obviously festivities, bars, drinks, and so on.
As I say, then people after the parade, then people would, there's so many Irish bars in Paris, as I mentioned earlier on, the ones, the main bars, and they, on St. Patrick's Day, as I said, it doesn't matter if St. Patrick's Day is on a Tuesday,
perfect.
I'll take the day off and meet people for lunch, and take the Wednesday off as well for recovery. You need a recovery.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's it,
Okay. So this marks the end of this episode. Pardon my St. Patrick's. This is how it's called. Thank you so much, Paul, for being with us today.
You're welcome.
Yep, it was a great interview. I learned a lot from it, and it made me want to integrate even more in the Irish community in Paris. And also, thank you so much for Rosetta that explained to us about the cultural center in the beginning. So the next episode will be in 2 weeks, but meanwhile, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and like the episode on the platform you're listening from. There are plenty of platforms today where you can find the podcast, but the main ones are Anghami, Amazon Music, Apple Podcast, Deezer, Spotify, and YouTube. Or you can log onto my website, patricksayeg.com/pathankscast, where you can find all the information over there. Also, please do not hesitate to send me some feedback, whether you agreed or not on what we said in the episode or on the podcast itself. It will be a pleasure to read your comments as usual. Thank you, and see you in 2 weeks, Pengies.
Cool.
All I want.